On behalf of Parks Associates and our 25th Annual Connections Conference, I'd like to welcome Raman Sidhu, Vice President of Product, Xfinity Home and Connectivity, Comcast, a huge powerhouse player. We've seen so much activity in the smart home and security space, and we really appreciate you taking your time today to share a little bit more of your perspectives. So let's go ahead and start out and see if you can share some of the latest trends you're seeing in the market today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elizabeth. So happy to be here. And Parks Associates does such a great job bringing industry players together with great research and great events. So thank you so much for including me. When I think about some of the industry trends that are really impactful these days over the last several years, I think about DIY, right? I think about the flexibility of choice so that meeting customers where they are. DIY when it comes to professional monitoring so that there's choices there, as well as DIY when it comes to self-monitoring. Cameras, video doorbells, door locks, garage door openers, etc. There's so much goodness that is coming down the pike that customers now have the flexibility to do it on their terms. And that's not even, the first time. We often think about smart home users building their smart home kind of brick by brick over time. It's not all at once. So I think that's really important that consumers can add on to their smart home over time as their needs change. Another big one, maybe just to hit on really quickly, is convergence. Security, historically, it's been, it's a standalone service of arming and disarming. But today, particularly over the last several years, you see all of these components, these features and experiences coming together into interoperable kind of user experiences within one app or with voice assistants, et cetera. So I think those integration across use cases are going to become more and more important.
Well, I certainly agree that DIY and the new options that are coming for consumers to add security to their homes has certainly been expanding the market. And those integrations between devices and services is getting more towards the vision of the smart home that we've all been thinking about for years, which is really this whole home service play. So if you can tell me what areas are you seeing the most growth in as consumers continue to adopt more connected devices with the attached services that go along with them?
No, it's a great point, Elizabeth. I think on the core, our core is still security, monitoring, professional monitoring, self-monitoring. But as I put my kind of industry hat on and look more broadly, there's so much growth happening in those adjacencies that are leveraging the same technology, leveraging the cameras, the sensors to provide new use cases. And I think there's been market events from customers in the insurtech space with the insurance play with smart insurance. I think that's going to be really big and continue to grow and be impactful for helping consumers reduce their premiums and have safer and more secure homes. I think delivery services are, in the pandemic, I think that, for most and many consumers, the delivery of food and groceries and, whether it be DoorDash or Instacart, as well as the abundance of things that now we're just not going to the store and getting delivered to us. So how do we do that in a more safe and secure way? How do we ensure that those packages can go maybe inside the home or into the garage in a more secure way? So I think around the delivery is going to be an area that's going to continue to be important for our industry. And then another more nuanced one that I think has legs is going to be around learning and well-being. So while it's not security per se, but I think it's around using cameras and other sensors and technology so that people can learn better, whether that's cooking classes, exercise, with the pelotonification of a lot of things that are happening. I think there are interesting new use cases and value props that are going to be developed.
Yeah, absolutely. The health to home and health and wellness play, especially as it relates to technology and smart home solutions, I think is a huge area that's going to grow. Virtual care, as well as hospitals and doctors look for new ways to serve the consumer away from some of those medical facilities. So all really good points. And certainly our data is supporting that consumers value technology more than ever. 56% reported that technology is more important and valuable to them now than prior to the pandemic. A lot of this fragmentation that we've seen in the market speaks to the age-old problem of interoperability and products by different brands and ecosystems being able to integrate and work seamlessly together for that unified, awesome plug-and-play experience for the consumer. So there are still many challenges in the industry, but can you share what your view on interoperability and that role for true integration and how that's going to play out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think historically, that is the holy grail, as you described, right? That's what everyone wants, is that devices just work. You can plug and play, and they just connect and integrate, can automate across platforms. But when you peel back that onion, Elizabeth, that's really hard, right? The technology's hard. When you have some things that are locally connected, whether it be Zigbee or Z-Wave or Thread, and you have other things that are, cloud connected, there's the platforms interoperability is a challenge, and Comcast has seen that challenge, and which is why we've taken more of an approach within the Xfinity ecosystem of being more curated, picking the experiences that are really going to drive engagement and making sure that we can put a nice wrapper around those. So it's not about having the most devices or the most smart home categories so that you can have an app where you can turn something on or off. It's about bringing in the lighting or the door locks all into one view so that, for example, I can look out at my front door and from that same view, turn the light on or off, if someone's approaching, or I can lock and unlock the door directly from that similar view. So I'm not jumping around, not even within the app, but not even, to other apps. It's all integrated onto that one screen. So as we move forward, I think as an industry, it's about picking those use cases, picking the things that are customer pain points, and making sure that we can truly kind of add value in those specific areas rather than trying to do everything for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many different consumer segments to be taking a look at and seeing, what they really value in those devices and services. One of the big areas, the big segments that we watch are households with children. And these people with kids, they love their devices and they love their services and they love to know what's going on in their homes and with their family members. So that is certainly a segment that we see really, really growing and continuing to value the use of technology. Also, parents at that age point where they have young children and they also might have older parents they're looking to help support. So that extension of care and monitoring, I think, is going to continue to grow in the future. Do you see that specific segment as a sweet spot for Xfinity services?
100%, Elizabeth. I think that's one of the things that, and I'm fortunate to be in a role where I look after not only Xfinity Home, but also the connectivity side. So with our X5 product, X5 Complete, we have features and experiences that are really geared towards those parental controls and knowing what devices are on your network, the digital security for those devices. The more and more, I think right now on the average, we're having, 11 or 12 smart home devices in the homes. And so when you think about the security to those, making sure that we're doing that at the gateway level. As the internet service provider, we have tools and capabilities to provide security threat monitoring on the gateway itself so that things aren't even getting into the home or out to the wrong places. Secondly, kind of you're spot on with parental controls. We leaned into that pretty early on with our products so that customers, particularly those with parents with kind of, let's call it school-aged children, can monitor and help kind of open up the conversation around, digital control. So the customers are monitoring, what types of screen time their children may be getting and helping to ensure that that's measured and monitored.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Raman, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your continued support and leadership and look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I really appreciate the support from you all as well.
If you miss a live session, you can go back at any time to watch on demand. Go to Watch Replays and click on the session that you want to view. Have you created your own event agenda and swap card? Visit the Agenda and Watch Replay tabs to add sessions that interest you to your own event. You can go back to My Event to revisit any bookmarked sessions, sponsors, and items. We want to make sure that you're connecting with our industry-leading sponsors. You can interact with them by visiting the Booths and the Sponsor tab. You can also bookmark sponsors or add items to your event to view later. Sponsors have uploaded extra materials for attendees. Make sure to visit sponsors that interest you to chat with one of their team members or save documents for later. We have dedicated meeting slots set up for break times between sessions. Continue the discussion by requesting meetings from others in the SwapCard platform. Schedule a meeting with another attendee or a sponsor by visiting their page. The panelists and speakers will be addressing your questions live during the stream. During the stream, use the question tab to ask your questions early in the presentation. Go to the poll tab to answer polls that will be discussed during the live stream. If you need help navigating SwapCard, please reach out to our team by mentioning @Parks Associates in the chat box or by contacting one of our team members via our company page. Welcome to Parks Associates' 25th year of Connections, the premier Connected Home Conference. This virtual series will be hosted across 2021, bringing together a community of industry leaders in the connected home industries. In the 20-plus years that Parks Associates has hosted Connections, the connected home has evolved from a high-end concept towards a mass market opportunity with incredible revenue potential. Today, several high-profile market disruptions are emerging as a result of broadband adoption, smartphone usage, and consumer expectations for connectivity solutions that provide a personalized experience. Our 2021 sponsors are making all of this possible. Thank you to our sponsors for their support this year. Thank you for joining us at Connections today and throughout 2021. We are happy to have you here and look forward to your feedback.
New research from Parks Associates shows for the first time online retailers dominate as the top channel for the most widely adopted smart home devices. Overall, more than 1/3 of U.S. broadband households own at least one smart home device. Our new research, Smart Home Consumer Purchases and Preferences, includes an analysis of COVID-19's impact on the smart home markets and provides insight into identifiable purchasing behaviors, including product and feature preferences among consumers. According to this quarterly survey work of 10,000 broadband households, the pandemic was finally the tipping point for online retailers, which had been trending towards the top channel position for years. Security dealers are an important secondary channel for smart safety and security devices, while HVAC contractors are an important channel for smart thermostats. Repeat buyers are still the top smart home customers, but at some point, this group will reach saturation. The mainstream volume portion of the market is still playing wait and see because they haven't been sufficiently convinced of the smart home value proposition. For more information on this new research, please contact our team today.
Welcome back to our Connections series, where all year we are celebrating Parks Associates' 35th year in business and the 25th anniversary of Connections, the premier connected home conference. I'm Jennifer Kent, Vice President of Research at Parks Associates, and I'm excited to be kicking off 2 days of conversations about some of the most important topics impacting the smart home market. This first session focuses on the ways users experience the smart home and how platforms and standards are evolving to elevate that experience. We appreciate Johnson Controls' sponsorship of this session today. And of course, thank you to all of our Connection sponsors. We couldn't host these events without your support in this unique year that is certainly true more than ever. So thank you to Alarm.com, Calix, Cox Communities, Smart Rent, Xfinity Home, Bitdefender, Johnson Controls, Notion, Tuya, Ayla Networks, Plume, and AirTies. We really appreciate your support of this event. We also want to recognize our supporters who we work with in different ways to help educate and network with the industry. We appreciate the support from CEDIA, Connected Design, the Connectivity Standards Alliance, DealerScope, SCTE, the Monitoring Association, the Z-Wave Alliance, Zonda, Broadband Communities Magazine, the Consortium for Energy Efficiency, ESA, and Home Grid Forum. If you have joined us for prior Connection sessions this year, welcome back. If this is your first session, welcome. And as an attendee, you have access to all of the sessions we've conducted this year through the Swap Card platform. And over the next 2 days, in addition to platforms, we'll be talking about privacy and security in the smart home. We'll be taking a special look at the state of the smart home market in Europe, and discussing initiatives and partnerships with insurers. And we are very excited to share with you that 2022 will include both virtual and in-person events. Our first in-person event is Connection Summit at CES, a full-day event on the connected home landscape that we've put on with the Consumer Electronics Show for many years, and we hope to see you there. Then we will have Connections virtual sessions throughout the year and our flagship in-person event in May. We have loved connecting with all of you this year virtually, but we are eager to see industry relationships deepen with the return of our in-person events next year. So over the next 2 hours, again, we're going to be talking about smart home bridging platforms and changing the experience. I'm going to be kicking off with some insight and research from Parks Associates. Then I'm very excited to be welcoming Jeremy McLaren, who's the Global Director of Marketing from Johnson Controls, to have a conversation about his visionary insight into the market. We'll also be inviting our president, Elizabeth Parks, to have a conversation with David Friedman, who's the chairman of Ayla Networks, about changing the experience. And then we'll have a full interactive panel discussion with speakers from Brilliant, Resideo, Samsung, Comcast, and Corvo to really flesh out this topic. Finally, when we close the session, we will open up a Zoom networking room to take this conversation out into the virtual hallway. So please join us there. Our team will be putting in a Zoom link into the chat so that you can easily jump over to the networking discussion. Also, throughout the day, you'll see that there is a polling tab and a chat and Q&A tab. So we do encourage you to fill out those polling questions so we can understand what you're thinking about these topics. And you can ask questions of our speakers in that Q&A or chat tab. With that, let's dive into today's topic about how consumers experience the smart home and the role of platforms and standards that help products to work together in achieving that experience. Now, Parks Associates has been studying for decades the idea of a home network and connected devices and sensors connecting across that network in ways that are thoughtful and integrated and, importantly, useful. The latest iteration of the smart home idea is now more than 10 years old. If we think back to Ecobee's thermostat launching way back in 2008. And in that time, the market has expanded considerably, right? With manufacturers of product types throughout the home introducing connected versions of their products and attempting to find the right combination of value to the consumer and a business model that's sustainable. As of Q2 2021, 36% of all broadband households have at least one smart home device and are slowly adding more and more devices. Those with at least one smart home device in the home own, on average, 8 smart home devices. Of course, smart home devices are not the only connected devices in the home. If you look across the entire home landscape and consider all of the devices connected to your home network, there's PCs, mobile, smart speakers, streaming media players, smart TVs. And increasingly, over the last 2 years, we've seen a major increase in connected health devices in the home as well. On average, US broadband households count 14 connected devices in the home. Now, there's long been a divergent buyer journey and user experience between those who acquire standalone point devices and cobble them together versus a curated system of devices that are designed to work together. Most smart home devices are acquired from retail, whether in person or online, one at a time, and brought into an increasingly chaotic assortment of smart home devices. A curated system, of course, has components that are designed to work together, perhaps has routines or automations that are ready to go, but there's also often limited choice of products and models. And of course, pricing and ongoing fees may not align with consumers' needs or budgets. Regardless, we know that far too many consumers find the smart home experience too difficult. 36% of consumers who set up smart home devices on their own experience difficulty. And even beyond the setup process, the number of technical problems owners experience with their devices also continues to grow. 38% of smart home product owners experienced 2 or more technical problems in the past year with a smart home product, up from just 11% 2 years ago. Now, this may reflect growth of the market in some places beyond innovators and early adopters who tend to be more tech savvy, but it's certainly not the experience any solution providers want for their customers, regardless of their tech affinity. And the number one problem experienced is loss of wireless connectivity generally. And then additionally, 44% of those experiencing a technical problem report they had difficulty getting the device to interact with other devices in the home. So the basic value proposition of a home with technology that works together is simply not being met in too many cases. We know that consumers do care about this, not just reactively when they have a problem, but also as a key consideration at purchase. They do look for products that work well with others, that play well, right? Whether that be working with their smart home, with a smart speaker, with a security system they have in their home, with other smart products that they have in their home, or even, with their smartwatch. We asked consumers who purchased a smart home product in the past 12 months about various considerations they took into account when selecting the choice of brand and model that they selected, and the ways in which smart home devices work with other devices and key control points in the home is a factor. For instance, 32% of smart plug buyers rated working with smart speakers as a top purchase consideration. 1 in 4 network camera buyers said the product's ability to work with their security system was a top purchase consideration. And smart door lock owners were particularly concerned that their lock work with other smart products that they already own in the home. Now, the industry has been working very hard for a very long time to solve this problem. What is the best approach to a smooth, integrated experience for the end user that also allows for the variety of connectivity needs that serve all use cases and product designs? There's a real need for a variety of communication methods that can take into consideration range, battery life, data security, all sorts of specific product design issues. Not all standards work for every product or use case, and not every manufacturer can support the cost of multiple radios, multiple chipsets in their products. So hubs, voice assistants, works with programs, all of these have attempted to solve the most fundamental of all issues in the smart home, which is making things work, right? Now, most recently, the Matter connectivity standard has put forth an IP-based approach with support from leading industry players, including Apple and Amazon and Google. And products are supporting Matter are expected to hit the market in 2022. So we are certainly watching that initiative, and we'll hear more from our industry speakers about what they think about Matter and how they're participating in that initiative. Now, if Matter or other approaches succeed in solving the interoperability part of the equation, meaning devices will be able to communicate in some even limited way, regardless of brand or platform or system, then the next most important focus of the industry becomes who or what is the consumer's primary method for interfacing with their home. Consumers currently interact with their smart home products in a variety of ways through an app that controls a single product on their smartphone, right? Through an app that controls multiple products, through their voice using a smart speaker, through their voice using the voice assistant on their phone, through a home security app, and of course, by actually physically touching controls on the device or on a panel. However, we do see strong demand for unified control. In our most recent smart home survey in Q2 of this year, 86% of smart home device owners say they want a unified control of all of their connected home products through a single app. And there are plenty of companies vying for this spot. Security system providers, internet service providers, retail energy providers, manufacturers of smart home products, and of course, the tech giants. Parks Associates research finds that it is still anyone's game to be the main interfacing brand with the consumer. Currently, when we ask the smart home product owners what their primary control method is for their smart home products, the tech giants lead the pack, but residential security providers and internet service providers also have a prominent position of this control point in the home. And when we ask consumers who they would most prefer to be their unified smart home app provider, it's actually even more evenly distributed. No one provider type gains preference among even a quarter of smart home device owners. Wide open field. And providing a quality control experience is not easy. Not all consumers desire the same experience to start. So in fact, our research has found that US consumers are fairly evenly split into two large buckets. About half say that they want to feel like an expert. They want to be able to customize their experience, really control how their smart home works for them. The other half say they want to set it and forget it. Do not make being a smart home owner feel like a job, right? Automate. Make it work. They didn't get into smart home to make their life even more difficult. Another key element is trust. Who do consumers trust to control their home? Who do they trust with all of the potentially sensitive data that passes through their smart products? Who do they trust to secure their video streams that may face external, may face internal, right? Here, our data indicates that security providers and ISPs have a lead in the game, but certainly earning and keeping consumer trust is fundamental in this market for all players. So throughout this session today, our industry experts will be sharing their vision of the smart home. We'll be discussing interoperability and new standards approaches, the constant need for differentiation, and what it means to deliver an awesome control experience to consumers. Will interoperability initiatives expand beyond the core smart home and security segment to other areas of the connected home, including health, including entertainment, auto, and really bringing smart appliances into the fold? We'll be hearing our industry experts' opinions, but of course we want to hear from you too. So please take a minute to answer the polling questions, and remember to submit questions for our speakers as we go. And with that, I'm very excited to move into our Visionary Insight session with Jeremy McLaren with Johnson Controls.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you? Thank you for being with us today.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks very much. What a fantastic presentation. The data you shared is awesome. And I hope everyone was listening closely because there's a lot of really great stuff in there.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for the feedback. Jeremy, why don't we start off by telling our audience today a little bit more about yourself and about Johnson Controls, if you will.
Sure. I have been in this industry for many years now. I started back as actually I started door to door, selling security systems door to door. And after a mediocre successful summer, I went back to corporate and said, hey, I'm not sure door to door is really where I'm going to be successful. I had a long history of training experience. And I said, could I help maybe train some of the people on what might be more effective and help improve your training program, because I felt like it wasn't that fantastic at the time. We made some great improvements in that particular organization, and through that we realized that we needed a great marketing team, and I was asked to run marketing for this SDM 10 company. We had about 350,000 customers, and as we put our attention back on those customers, we saw some tremendous improvements in usage, in customer satisfaction, in our NPS scores, and just in referrals and overall, product adoption. It was through that relationship that I was able to get introduced to a small Silicon Valley-based company called Qualsys, and they approached me and asked if I would run marketing for them as they launched their first product back in 2013. And I did so, assisting them to launch the IQ panel and that product line. And ran marketing for Qualsys for 10 years or so till we were acquired by Johnson Controls. Johnson Controls, as you probably know, is one of the largest companies in the world and focuses really on creating smart, sustainable buildings. And the Qualsys acquisition was key in part of that, to bring some of the security and smart home technologies into it. And many of the things that you shared, the data information you shared, is exactly the kind of things we're working to achieve and working very hard. We believe that there should be devices everywhere. And whether that's a smart HVAC system on the top of a building or a small door sensor that allows you to be able to be aware of what's happening in your home, those little devices placed all throughout the home really make a very successful, installation, a very successful experiences. And of course, the more devices you have, the more you can do. So we're developing new devices. We're partnering with other devices that we don't make ourselves, and really bringing in our partners and the things we make ourselves into a single solution that can really be leveraged no matter what size the building. So it's a very exciting time to be in this industry.
Well, we're so pleased that you're here and to get the JCI opinion, because really, Johnson Controls does, you mentioned it's an enormous international company, right? You have a footprint in commercial and residential. You have a footprint in security and energy and air quality, right? Really have a very broad perspective in what is possible in smart homes. So you shared a little bit. Is there anything more that you like to say about what really Johnson Controls' vision is for the smart home?
Well, I think a big part of it is ecosystems. I think right now there's so many disparate ecosystems, and you mentioned it in your data that you were sharing. There's a lot of different ways, and people almost are looking for a winner. They're looking for well, is this platform going to be the one that everyone's going to use? And am I going to do that and do this? And I think we believe, there's a phrase that we use a lot, and we've never met a protocol we didn't like, whether it's Z-Wave or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or security RF or, legacy radio frequencies or, all of them. If we can find a way to bring all those items together in one platform, in one user experience, then rather than try and wait for a winner and wait for this other one that might be getting some success to fail and go away, instead, we bring them all together under one roof. And that's one thing that we've really, really been working for is bringing all these ecosystems together. I think our flagship platform has 6 different wireless protocols in it, all working together with, whether it's Z-Wave or it's a legacy security device, or it's a new PowerG encrypted wireless device, or it's a Wi-Fi device or a Bluetooth device. All these things are being brought together into a single experience and hopefully an intuitive and pleasant experience for the user to be able to have something that they really truly will not only use, but will share with others as well. And I think that's where we're going to see that adoption increase, is when people love what they have, they're going to tell their friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you give such a great perspective from what a lot of device manufacturers are probably feeling on, how do you incorporate all of these different standards and technologies and be wherever the consumer is right now, right? Because you want to be able to support a unified experience, but that means a lot of different things. And of course, matters coming down the pipe, but there's a little bit of a wait and see, and we'll support that too, maybe, and see how it goes. Do you have any other thoughts on that or on?
Well,
that?
it's interesting. You were mentioning the wait and see comment, and I do believe that there's a lot of people that are saying, I'm going to wait and see, but I think that they would be surprised and probably very eager to get what we have today. And I say we as an industry, not just simply as Johnson Controls, but we as an industry. I think they'd be more likely to get what we have today if we were better at showing it to them. And I think one thing that we need to do is not just, the technology is almost there. We've got really, really great technology, from, smart long-range encrypted security wireless, smart CO detectors and carbon monoxide detectors and smoke detectors, flood detectors that tell you when water's detected and then automatically turn off, the water with a smart water valve, smart lighting, solar integration, automatic garage door openers. There's so many different things. The challenge I think we have as an industry is we're not necessarily terribly good at showing it off. We might have a few executives here and there. Each of the companies that are listening today, each of the individuals that are listening today might have some experience with some of this stuff. But have we done a good job as an industry in showing off what we can do and making the smart home a reality for people? I know in my house, when I leave, my phone knows I've gone. I get a little alert via my alarm.com mobile app that says, hey, you left. You've left the geofence. Would you like to arm away? And with one button, I press arm away. My doors lock. My garage door closes. My thermostat adjusts to an energy saving mode. My lights turn off. My security system arms. My cameras are ready to watch for things. My flood detectors and everything else are ready to watch for things. It's a really, really great experience with a single button. And when I come home, the Bluetooth radio in my phone automatically connects with my panel, unlocking my front door for me. We can literally walk inside the house. The thermostat turns back on. The lights are turning on. Music's playing. It's a really, really great experience. And part of that requires that we all do a better job at showing that off, that we tell our customers about it. And therein, I think, lies the biggest challenge. How do we show off everything that we can do without overwhelming the customer and making them feel like, boy, this is way too expensive. I can't adopt all of this. And my personal solution is do it over time. It's very rare when you get that customer who says, I want to take everything you got. Give me it all. Give it all to me. Make it, I don't care what it costs. Give it all to me. Most people are on a budget. Most people are saying, well, I can afford a little bit here, a little bit there. And they're getting marketed to. They're seeing ads for Christmas time right now, looking at all the different things that they could buy and get this new smart home device to add. It makes a great Christmas gift. What if we as an industry are doing a better job at helping them understand all the different cool things we can do, making those the Christmas gifts that you can provide to people, and helping them over time build an amazing smart home solution? When they say, I can't afford lights right now, well, don't give up on them. Talk to them in 6 months. Hey, are you ready for that smart light switch now? Are you ready for that smart light bulb now? Or that smart device? Are you ready for that smart garage opener? You never know when that customer is ready to buy that next thing. And so we have to be in constant contact with our customers, helping them understand all the different things they can do, giving them incentives to buy, helping them see how they all work together. And most importantly, making sure that it all fits together in their mobile app, on the touchscreen in their home, that they have this single, unified, amazing user experience that they not only love to use, but want to share with their friends and show off.
Yeah, I think everything that you're talking about really does align with the reality of the market right now. By far, the number one way that consumers do get a smart home device is as a point solution, purchased at retail, whether in person or online, right? And then they're fitting it into whatever else that they have in the home. We also find that the smart home value proposition or what's possible in the smart home is very experiential. So you can have lovely commercials or try and reach them, of course, with marketing, which is a must. But really, consumers have to see their friend use it, visit their neighbor, and it kind of opens up their eyes. And once they have that one device, you start to see the possibilities for the other types of devices in your home. So love your perspective there. Now, how do you measure what sort of user experience people are having once they are kind of starting to get into smart homes? So we do still see technical issues, problems with setup, right? We are looking a little closer next year, perhaps at, how many people are putting these things in boxes? It didn't work. They didn't give it another shot, right? Or they didn't even return it. It's just, oh, not for me. And now they're back out of the market. So how do you know what the user experience is on the other side?
Well, you shared data that 85% are looking for that kind of unified method. And while that might be true, I also believe that unified method for me might be different than the unified method that you are looking for. And so I think, again, from an interoperability standpoint, we as an industry need to make sure that all of our devices can all work together, because like you said, some people are buying that little device and they say, oh, cool, I got this new cool device. I want it to work with my system. And they bring it home, and then they don't realize that company that makes that device didn't make it to work with all the others, because they're hoping that you're going to buy the rest of their devices, not a bunch of other ones. So there is a certain level of corporate selfishness we need to be willing to give up, that we have to say, hey, look, in order to win, we have to be able to embrace all these different technologies, and we have to be able to provide all these different user experiences. When we measure success, it should be measured in usage. If our customers are using the products we're selling, then that's a huge win. How do we get them to use it more? How do we get them to buy more and to continue to use more? Because we know that when they do, they'll share it with their friends. And I believe that part of it is that ongoing communication, but another part of it is giving them more than one method to use it. There's some people who say, well, one day voice control is going to be everything. I don't believe that's true. I think there might be some people who say, I only want to use voice control, but there will be just as many people who will say, I only want to use the mobile app, or I want to use the watch app, or I want to use the touchscreen in my home, or touchscreens all throughout my bedroom, or I want everything to be automatic and I don't want to touch anything or do anything at all. And there's going to be plenty of people who are going to say, yeah, you know what? When I'm in the living room, I want to use the touchscreen because it's right there. But when I'm in the hallway, I don't want to walk to the living room. I want to use my phone. And when I'm out in the garage, I want to be able to use my voice control that's sitting, on the counter in there. And I want to be able to, use automatic when I'm driving around. So I believe, and I think many people share this opinion, that the solution is going to be to provide all of these different types of access to our customers. You need to have voice control. You need to have an in-home touchscreen that looks beautiful on the wall, and ideally multiple ones so they can access it wherever they are. Then you need to have voice control units and integration with the popular ones they already own, so that as you're walking around the house, that you can use those commands and do the things you want to do with that. You got to have your watch apps, and you got to have your, automatic things that just, some of the things should just happen automatically. If there is a flood in the home and the water detector under the sink detects it, you shouldn't only get an alert that triggers you to say, okay, turn off water. That kind of thing should happen automatically. When you're getting up in the middle of the night because you really need that extra bowl of cereal and it's 2 a.m., maybe automatically the pantry light should turn on for you, lighting your way as you go in. Okay, so you don't have to fumble for a switch in the dark. There's certain things that will need to be automatic, certain things that will need to be controlled, certain things that need to be, and the key is devices. The key is lots of different devices to go all throughout the home and provide the kind of impact and data that the customer needs, and let them configure it how you want. And therein lies, I think, probably one of the biggest keys, and that's the professional installer. More and more, we're seeing a trend where people are moving away from the DIY install to the professional installer. And let's be honest, if you wanted brand new wood floors in your home right now, you might be able to watch the DIY channel and learn how to do it. But the question is, are you willing to do that? If you are, it's probably because you're looking to save a buck, not because you think you'll do a better job. Now, maybe you think you can, but if so, you're an anomaly. Most people will say, if it came down to it, I would rather trust a professional, especially if the cost wasn't unreasonable. And that's where we need to help lean on these professional systems engineers, these integrators who can go through and say, I can help build out everything you need. I can give you exactly what you want. I can consult with you and find out what you want today. And I will continue to consult with you tomorrow and the next day to help you figure out what you want. And I'll be your guide. Just like everyone's got like I've got the one guy that does my sprinklers. I've got the one guy that handles my yard. I got the guy that handles my auto repair. You know, and your friends will ask, hey, do you have a guy who can do your fill in the blank? I don't think we're too far away from a time when people say, hey, do you have someone who can do your smart home for you? And you're going to say, yes, I do. And he's awesome. He takes care of me. He has all the best devices. He'll make sure everything works together and it all works exactly the way I want.
Well, it's interesting. I was going to ask, and I think that this actually relates to the install professional piece as well. Creating routines and home automation scenes right now is still a very manual process. I'd love to understand if you think that there's a way to create routines that work for people without them having to figure out the math and the equation to make that work. And also, is the pro install channel, you know, you're a smart home guy, right? Is there a role for him to play that, right? At setup, you're doing some training of the end user and talking through some 5, 10, 15 initial use cases and setting up those scenes from the beginning, right? And then maybe there's a comeback every 6 months or something with, hey, learn this something new. Because we know from our own research that if you look at something somewhat, you know, correlated like Alexa skills, how many people ever add skills later? I mean, it's pretty low, even though there's tens of thousands of skills out there, you know? So, you know, what do you think about how to make that process easier and whether there's a role for the
Yeah, I mean, and we're actually seeing that already. So we've worked very hard on our flagship products to make the installation process literally very, very short. In fact, I've seen, you know, installations, a full system installation that literally takes 30 minutes. You know, the panel itself gets up on the wall, you know, within 5 to 10 minutes. You're putting up stickers, you know, adhesive tape, sensors with, you know, door sensors, window sensors, you know, motion sensors, etc., all throughout the home. Door locks. I mean, I installed a door lock for a friend of mine the other day, and it literally took us 10 minutes. I mean, some of these installations, because of how brilliant the engineers are becoming in making it so intuitive and so easy to do the install, the installation portion of that becomes really, really small. And we're seeing more and more, the installers are telling us that I spend most of my time configuring. Now, sometimes it's them configuring rules and things, you know, on the smart app, making sure everything's set up the way they want. Sometimes it's customer training, and sometimes it's a combination of both. And asking all the right questions. Who's in your home? How many people do you have coming and going? You know, who all needs a user code? Because it's not just the old, you know, your grandma's got one user code for the security system, and that's the only code that's ever used. Now everyone has their own code because everyone has their own device, and the devices are integrated in, and you're capturing photos and video clips of different people as they come and go, and being aware of the people as they come and go. And if one of those, you know, devices or codes gets compromised, it's easy to eliminate one and not have to change them all. So that user experience, having someone to say, hey, how many users do you have? What are they doing? What kind of roles will these users play? What kind of access should we be providing to these users? What kind of things do you want to do? What kind of things do you want to know about in your home? What kind of things are you worried about? What kind of problems should we help you to solve? Maybe you are worried about your kids sneaking out at night, you know, in which case you're talking about smart rules, geofences, you know, sensors on doors and windows that can alert you to that kind of thing, and being aware when they come home and getting notifications when they come home. Maybe you're worried about leaving the kids at home when you're driving away, and you want to have cameras installed throughout the home so you can kind of check on things. And while you're out on a date with your spouse or significant other, you could be checking on things from your mobile app and seeing that the babysitter's taking good care of things and seeing that the kids are happy. Maybe you want just to make sure your home is energy efficient. And when you drive away, you want to make sure that automatically, I don't have to touch anything other than saying I'm leaving, and automatically your lights are turning off, your fireplace is turning off, your thermostat's turning down, your doors are locked, you know, all those things are happening for you automatically. So you don't have to worry about your home being more energy efficient because it does it automatically. So, you know, part of this is that ongoing conversation that the professional needs to have with the homeowner and help them not only understand and identify the various aspects of the system that are right for them, but what rules, what notifications, what extra devices you can bring in both now and in the future that will help them accomplish their own personal goals, and meeting with them, like you said, whether it's every 6 months or every 12 months, however often that needs to be, to reassess those needs. How are the things I've already installed for you going? Do you like them? Are there any rules that are broken or things that are not working right? Now, let me show you what is next for you. We're going to make a personal plan for you to decide what devices you're going to get next. And we're going to look at the long term, be aware that these other things are out there too. So don't go and buy that one-off device that won't integrate When you're ready for smart lighting, for example, I've got a full set of choices for you. Come talk to me first and I'll coach you through what to get, how to get, and in many cases, I'll even do it for you.
So one quick follow-up there, and then we have a couple questions that I'm going to get to from the audience. So just following up on the channel there. So whether we think about security dealers, right, or HVAC dealers, which are sort of another pro, right, channel into the home, where do you see their level of familiarity, their enthusiasm with smart home tech, right? Where is the average dealer at right now in understanding what's possible and how their business maybe could be different and they could serve their own customers differently?
Well, our dealers have been amazing. I can't tell you how awesome it's been to get feedback from them, and they're very eager for that next device integration. They're very eager for that next rule or that next automation, and it's really cool to have them participate on our weekly webinars, on our social media pages, and they're very, very active. They're all very eager and wanting to do all of these things we just talked about. Many of them are becoming experts in almost every aspect of the system, and whether you're going in and saying, hey, look, this is a cute little old lady and she needs a wellness enabled system with bed sensors and chair sensors and things like this, or this is a big commercial building and we need to do smart HVAC, you know, all of those. It's really cool to see how eager they are to share this content. And again, therein lies some of the challenge. And they come to us all the time as a marketing team. How can you help me show off these items without making the customer feel overwhelmed? I don't want them to feel overwhelmed. And so part of that is that coaching of how do we create a plan. The HVAC customers are the same way. And that's actually one of the things we've worked very hard on, is to try and decrease the barrier to entry for some of these products. The easier we can make that installation, on-screen wizards that guide you exactly through the tutorials, remote connectivity that makes it easy to go in and make an adjustment to a system, you know, and devices that are simple to install. I mean, our water valve is a great example of this. It used to be, if you wanted to install a smart water valve, you had to have a professional plumber contracted outside of your job to come in and do it. And the installation would cost just as much, if not more, than the device itself. And so it became so cost prohibitive that no one was ever doing it. Well, now we design smart water valves that literally attach right onto the pipe. No plumber required. You literally put it on, tighten down the clamps, pair it using a Z-Wave radio. As long as it's got power, it's going to work fantastic. And we're seeing a huge amount of people saying, well, now I'm really going to get into the water conservation and water management side of the business because you've made it so easy. HVAC technicians are the same way. They're looking at saying, hey, look, we have opportunities for security, for life safety, for automation, but we don't have time. We don't have the bandwidth to learn all of years and years worth of technology to try and figure it out. So we try and make it as simple as possible and say, plug this in, follow the on-screen prompts, and then do these other things. We create easy tutorial videos that take a minute or two to watch that allow you to watch that and understand what to do. So the simpler we can make it for the installer, the easier that becomes for them to not only implement a large variety of things, but also to even delve into DIY. And we've seen many dealers who say, hey, look, I'm going to come out and do the professional install for you in person. But then as you add devices down the road, I'll configure it for you at my home base, and we're going to mail it to you, and you'll install it yourself. And with a simple video piece of video content, or even just an intuitive experience, many of these homeowners are now adding those devices to their homes themselves with the assistance of the professional installer and the professional organization. So it's a really great melding between all of them.
Yeah, that's really interesting to see how the DIY space is now looping back into the professionals.
And one comment on that, I've always believed that DIY is not a business method. It is instead an installation option. And you can choose to have a DIY or you can choose to have professionally installed. You know, that is something that really becomes up to the consumer. You ask your customer, do you want it professionally installed or do you want to do it yourself? Because my product's worth both ways, and you decide what level of touch is right for you.
Yep. Well, let me take a question from the audience here. What do you tell people who want to get started with smart home, but are afraid of wasting time and money since tech is quickly changing?
Great question. So the first thing I would say is find a solution that is broad enough to meet all your needs, both now and the future. Get that base system in first. That's one of the things we specialize in, is helping people get that first system. And we've got lots of people who will say, well, I'll take D.R. Horton as an example, one of the largest home builders, if not the largest home builder in the United States. Every single D.R. Horton home comes with a smart panel, a smart panel, as well as a video doorbell, a smart thermostat, and a door lock, and a smart light on the front porch. That's just a base automation system. They can control it locally from their phone, from the panel, or they get a free mobile app for the first 3 years where they can, interact with that system. Almost all of those are looking at it and saying, well, what else can this do? This is really cool. And 60% of those are saying, I want to upgrade to something. Many of them are choosing security. Some are choosing life safety. Some are choosing more cameras or things like that. But 60 to 70% of these homes are saying, I want more because I've already been given this base system. So that's my encouragement to you is find a solution that works for your base system that you don't have to say, oh, you wanted to do energy management. I got to rip that out and put in this other one instead. And the technology that we're developing today is flexible enough through software to be able to make it so that you can do any of those things without having to change out that base system. You can put the one system in, and whether you're doing solar integration, wellness, commercial, residential, builder, any of these verticals, any of these different aspects of things can all be used together in a single system. You're simply just changing settings within the software to enable features that are basically latent in there until you need them.
Smart. So here's a next question from the audience. How do you make it easy for your partners to integrate into your unified platform and deliver an intuitive customer experience considering platform security, mobile apps, quality, and reliability? A lot of factors there.
Well, it takes a village. It's not just us. We've got Qualcomm, we've got Foxconn, we've got Alarm.com. We've got so many different partners like Yale and Kwikset. We've got partners, in the camera space. We've got partners in, the energy management space, Solar Edge, things like that. So as we look at all Control4, if you look at all the different partnerships we make, again, the key is if we can be the hinge that allows all of these things to fit together, then we win. We want to be able to make it easy for each of these individuals to bring in. So we purposely put 6 different wireless protocols in our platform. And that way, when you say, hey, look, I've got a device, it's really awesome, and it uses Bluetooth, we can say, great, we got Bluetooth. Let's talk about how we might integrate that. Hey, I've got a device that uses Wi-Fi. Great, we've got Wi-Fi. Let's talk about how that might integrate. Oh, I've got a device that is a camera. Okay, great. Let's talk about how we'll integrate that with those things. So device manufacturers, should be using some of those universal protocols and coordinating with other device manufacturers to make sure they all fit together. And that interoperability, when it's done right, hopefully delivers all of those devices in the background, but we deliver one single user experience to the end user. And that's where, our partner Alarm.com has been so instrumental, in the mobile app that they bring all of these devices as we bring them into the panel and have all those, whether it's a Bluetooth, Z-Wave, security RF, a legacy security radio, a legacy security device, it's been installed for 10 years, whatever the device is, we bring all those in, we provide that to Alarm.com. And then through a single app, you can now control all of it in one place, just like you can control it locally on the panel.
So we have just a few minutes. I'd love to ask you to take a bit of a forward-looking question. So since Johnson Controls also has a footprint in commercial, right? I've seen a lot of the really innovative stuff you're working with in smart buildings related to smart access control, healthy buildings and air quality, right? Robotics in some cases, mail screenings, which might talk a little bit to, the package delivery use case. Can you give us any insight into what sort of innovations then and technologies that you're working with on the commercial side that might find its way into residential?
Well, we actually had some major announcements at our customer-only event just back in September. And one of the things we told our customers is that we're going to do the same thing to the commercial space that we did in the residential space. I think we've worked very, very, very hard to revolutionize the way that the security industry and the consumer themselves approaches, smart home and bringing all of these things in, and now it's funny because when we talk about being a security company, I shudder a little bit because we don't just do security. So much of what we do is smart home and other technologies brought in. But we are endeavoring right now with some new products and some innovations over the course of the next year or two. You will see some really, really amazing things coming out of Johnson Controls, bringing all of those things you just referenced together under one umbrella for the commercial building space. We're doing some of that now. Some of that's already in play. Others are coming in, and one of the things we really pride ourselves on is feedback. If our customers come to us and say, I really want to be able to do this, but that's just never been possible historically, well, we work to make it a reality. We love to take the ideas and feedback from our customers and turn them into something that they can actually use and do through the magic of both hardware and software.
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for your time and for your insights today. We really appreciate you being with us, and also Johnson Controls for sponsoring the session today. So appreciate
Thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun. I hope all of you have a great time. And remember, go talk to your customers. That's the best way to be successful.
Absolutely. Great business recommendation as always. So that's fantastic. Next up, pleased to welcome Parks Associates President Elizabeth Parks, who will be having an executive Q&A chat with Ayla Networks. We'll be right back.
On behalf of Parks Associates and our 25th Annual Connections Conference, I'm so pleased to welcome David Freeman, Chairman of Ayla Networks, to our virtual stage. My name is Elizabeth Parks, and I'm the President of Parks Associates. Ayla has been a leading provider for connected products for over a decade now, and we're so excited to hear his perspective on the growth of the smart home and the role of connectivity for the future experiences for consumers at home. David, welcome so much to our virtual stage. Let's start out and get an introduction of Ayla and your role there as chairman.
Yeah, it's a much easier role than CEO. So at any rate, Ayla evolved as a company, kind of started in our kitchen, just understanding that the internet would connect to things, and that the companies that made those things really didn't have those capabilities themselves. And so our goal was to build this extremely flexible technology set of layers that would allow sort of giant companies to then embrace the internet. I thought that this very interesting thesis we also had, this sort of know your customer, last kind of leaving comment on for the prior speaker, was a critical element that we've always believed, which is internet companies operate based on data. And our view was, okay, we can now enable companies to know their customers and leverage data. That's sort of been a key vision of ours for a long time, because we felt the companies that win ultimately will know their customers better than their competitors.
That's great, and certainly love Jeremy's perspective from Johnson Controls. He brings so much passion and enthusiasm for this topic, so it was great to hear from him. Let's get back a little more on that vision of the smart home that you and many others, including Parks Associates, have had for really over a decade, some even longer than that. Where do you think this shift happened, where we were moving really from hardware to software and services? And when has that really hit the inflection point, and where are we at now, with integrating it all and bringing it to the consumer?
Well, we started the company in 2010, and I think what we saw was that it's kind of funny thinking back, but there was Wi-Fi in every home was really just starting to happen. And then smartphone in everyone's hand was actually kind of new. And so that would enable the connectivity. So in a way, the market started with there was these networks and this way to interact with the products that was making this actually possible. It was very much in the early stages, I think, a hardware-centric view, which is, here are the products that we have today, giant companies that existed. I want to connect them. And that it was sort of, there weren't any major UI platforms really that existed. It's again, relatively recent that Apple had Apple Home, or, these voice platforms that are out there. And for sure, in the beginning, our customers did not think about data. They didn't have any of that DNA built in to do that. I think it's taken a lot of startups that are showing the way. Nest was great in sort of the energy segment. There's other companies providing, products that are sort of internet first and data first, that are starting to move software to the forefront of how companies think about the complete product. So the complete product went from hardware that has an app to it to companies I don't know that we've gotten over some hump where we've really moved to this, but the full solution of the product and the data and the applications as one thing is, I think we're in the early stages of that happening today. And actually the big platforms and even great things that Comcast, Xfinity, and JCI and others are doing to enable lots of different disparate products to connect up to, easier UIs is helping that.
Yeah, certainly we have seen the role of connected devices just, grow and create this opportunity to leverage that data to do new things. And I think probably 5, 8, 10 years ago, the whole industry and even in the industrial side, we're talking about big data, and data is gold, and this is the new currency even as a result of having the data. Do you think companies have figured out, you said maybe we're still in the early stages. Somebody 10 years ago might have said that too. So what is the progress that's been made with leveraging that data, and how is that translating into an experience for consumers at home?
Well, it's interesting. So Ayla was very much in the first 7 years or so, very focused smart home, smart building. And we have also over the last 3-4 years migrated very heavily towards also serving, call it B2B businesses, where the data is the primary reason that they're connecting to the cloud, and those are still far clearer value props. For those, it's sort of, if I can just get data from here, I can eliminate truck rolls, and do so much. I can change a business model. I can identify anomalies and issues like that. Right now, it's just a little less clear now in terms of the connected dishwasher, how that data is being used and can be used by these companies, the OEMs that is, and by the end customers themselves. The key way, though, is like the internet companies like Google and others, the companies that actually use data to make decisions will always beat the others. So what we feel in this market is there is the concept of product quality, net promoter score, in terms of sort of how is this product actually faring in the field, what sort of features are being used, but also leveraging the data to make much smarter decisions related to how your sales are going and how you market your products and what features you build in future products. That is starting. It's still a new role. There's a DNA shift that happens at these companies that have been around for 50, 80 years. They're amazing companies, but how to leverage data to make decisions doesn't happen within 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that's great. And that cost of being connected is really an interesting one. We talk to so many companies who are working on products and are at that moment where they may be deciding, should I move forward with a connected product? Do I do that in-house? Do I outsource this? How do I even go about doing this? And why should I? Does it matter operationally for our internal metrics? Is there value for the end user? So what would you say to some of these companies if they're in that stage of decision making, and what they need to really be considering with how they go about it?
Yeah, I think they should be thinking about their business over the next 10 years. And then they should be thinking about bets that they have to make now and they have to learn. I think it's a no-brainer that competition increasingly will be based on being able to have much faster release of features, which are software-based release of features versus hardware cycles, leveraging data to make better decisions, and also just frankly being able to provide the cool type of features consumers will slowly but surely begin to expect. And taking the view of I'll just wait will just mean tremendous pain later, I think, for large companies. So companies like Johnson Controls, who have been at this for years, they've been able to refine. And I guarantee they're using data. So it may not happen in year 1, 2, and 3 exactly, but they are really starting to see how they can leverage data. They're being able to call it constantly improve how they operate, and make better and better decisions. So companies should start the journey now. The plug for Ayla and why companies like Ayla exist, you can say, okay, what do I do? And you have a whiteboard and say, well, let's go start hiring a team and doing this from scratch and building this and connecting something to the cloud is really, really expensive and super scary. I think it's sort of, and it should be scary. I mean, companies who try and do all the privacy and security themselves can really harm themselves. So there are technology providers that can maybe give a 10x lower total cost of ownership, but also allow much faster movement as the company learns. I think for us, we've always felt that's one of the critical ingredients of Ayla is you don't know exactly what you're going to need in this market, what features customers will want, what application you're going to want to connect to. So what you really need is dramatic flexibility to be able to go from whiteboard to reality much faster.
Yeah, and that role of partnerships is so important in the growth of the connected home. We've seen virtually every ecosystem that touches the home look to partnerships to help grow and really move the market to a different place, including what the experience is for the consumer. I do want to remind our audience that we're taking questions, and I have a question that's coming for you, Dave. So I'm going to throw that out, and then we'll continue talking a little bit about the consumer mindset. So here's a question from the audience. Can you talk more about the growth opportunities for Ayla? Also, how digital professional services might contribute to Ayla's growth?
Okay. The first one, I think what we are seeing, and this is kind of cool, is even as we see growth in these sort of more B2B data-centric businesses, the smart home is absolutely growing. Smart home, smart building. We have a giant portfolio that we can see, and each customer is growing because they've been at it for a couple of years and they're learning and they're moving into new regions. And so these cycles of learning are really helping industry-wide and within each customer. So it's been interesting. The last about 24 months have absolutely seen growth in customers just being able to explore. I don't know that it's a COVID thing, customers, consumers being at home and maybe having different things that they want, but that's been broad-based across most of our customers. Your second question was about digital services, was it, or support? What was that?
Yes. How digital professional services might contribute to your growth?
Okay. For us, I guess we sometimes use the word, I think I took a gap year off when I was a kid in Nepal, and we were sort of like, well, we can be the Sherpa here. It is, if you take a company who's historically been the leader in a market, but not been an internet company, there's so much that can be added versus just saying, here's a bunch of tools, go use it. It's kind of like telling someone a house. There was this sort of, again, the YouTube reference, just go do this. We've never viewed the world that way. So the more that we can actually reduce the risk, the fear and so on, and actually help our customers, it's a huge area of actually differentiation for a platform too. You become the integrator that helps work with the customer and teach and teach and train and train. I would say that we absolutely rely on those teams. That is a critical differentiator for our company. And we always aim to get better and better at providing those services to our customers.
Yeah, and additional services that help support change and transformation, I think, are really what everybody's looking for. There's a lot that has to happen for a product to be connected, and really many specific industries are looking to take all of their products full connectivity, and also look even to other ways, you know, to conserve energy, to create the ability to control things that are more specific, even on that energy management side, which brings in, you know, different end goals as well. And that really does bring us to, what does the consumer want, and what are they willing to pay for? And what is the value there in creating that unified solution? We have so much data at Parks Associates, especially in the past 18 months, that's tracking the adoption of technologies and the value that consumers see in technology, everything from their children to their work, to their pets, to their assets, whether it be their car or their jewelry or their second homes. So there's no doubt that technology is going to continue to infiltrate everyday life. And at the end of the day, there is an expectation that consumers have. So where do you think we are right now with that expectation? You mentioned it a little bit earlier in reference to some of the connected products and that experience, but you know, what do you think consumers want with all this technology in the home?
I think that we sometimes in the sort of industry talk a little bit too much about everything working together in the Jetsons kind of theory. And the most successful products stand alone, and they're just amazing. And they're solving something that a consumer really, really wants. And later, that thing might work into a super app or, you know, the mobile app and figure it out. But, you know, companies that are building products should think about something amazing that they can provide. And those are, we just see that those are the ones that just start to really take off. So why does mobile application connection matter for that product, if that's it? Or, you know, again, is it you sign up and you do a warranty thing, or you can lower cost product and have different business model as a result? Figure out the value props that the consumer is going to say, that is super cool. And focusing there before the whole thing connecting together is probably a good idea. Now, we do have companies that make lots of different products, and it's a little self-serving, but once they just say, you know what, just connect it all, because we will outcompete, because our ability to make changes as it relates to what our customers want and what the market has will be so much faster, because we're going to be more moving at software cycles once we do that versus hardware cycles. I think once companies make the leap, as you said, they will find and slowly learn that they're operating at a totally different speed than their competitors.
Yeah, certainly that differentiated point of having devices connected that then allows for, you know, all sorts of other things to happen for the end user, and again, operationally also is really important. I do have a question from the audience, so let me bring that in real quick. How can cloud-based solutions assure life safety services operate reliably over shared ISP connections and user-managed home Wi-Fi networks? So this is asking about home security, cameras, locks, PERS types of devices, and the reliability with managed networks and Wi-Fi. So you have any comments on that?
Let me bring it back to a little bit of a theory we had when we started the company, and why we started it maybe a little different from some companies. IoT devices inherently shouldn't be less secure just because they happen to have a tiny little processor on them. You should sort of expect them with security, privacy, and how they connect to operate kind of like your iPhone or your computer. Now, we did that. We just have this part of our tech, which it works with pretty much all the chips out there. and the communications chips that is, and then with the processors. So without getting too complex, that allows those processors to have a ton of horsepower so they can make it secure like your iPhone. So what that means is if you trust your iPhone for these types of applications or your laptop, you should be able to trust these IoT devices, if they're done the right way, to, you know, be able to have the same type of security that the iPhone uses to, you know, have password protection and you know, 256-bit whatever. We've always had that theory. Companies, no matter what it is, whether it's a smart plug or a light bulb or a door lock, they should be all secure, because without it, there's some threats to privacy threats and getting the data from your customer. You just, OEMs don't want that, and consumers don't want that. I hope that answered the question. I maybe took it a slightly different way.
I think that's a great answer, and I love that the word trust came back up. You know, we really look to try and get at that question with consumers on who do they trust with their data, with their services, with their connected devices that have you know, potential gaps that create vulnerabilities. So that unified app experience is also really important in controlling the many devices. And I love what you said earlier about, you know, sort of leading with one value proposition and building from there. And certainly have seen many of the powerhouse successful companies starting with one angle and then growing that. Nest is a great example. Now they're Google Home, and really, if you look at thermostats, they're still stuck at that 11 to 13% adoption. So we're now seeing door locks, networked cameras surpass that, you know, 10% mark, and becoming, you know, the one of the most widely adopted smart home devices that we track, at least within our surveys. So it's a really interesting time. We've got more questions on interoperability, and I know you mentioned this earlier, that there is a big focus on integration, interoperability, the whole home, Jetson's vision, which is definitely something that Trisha Parks had in mind 35 years ago. When she started Parks Associates. It also brings up this new initiative by the CSA group with Matter. And so I didn't know if you had any comments on that initiative that you'd like to make.
With respect to, let me just say, interoperability kind of in a market like this requires future-proofing a bit. And there's all these different layers of a connected product. There's the technology inside the home. You know, we were very, very big on Wi-Fi when we started, but we've added more capabilities around BLE and other technologies that might connect to a phone. But basically, I guess you could say, as technologies in the home change, homes, buildings, that if you're building a product, you should hopefully feel like you can move at the speed that those are changing. In the cloud, the way we view the world is it just needs to be built kind of like Lego pieces. And so there's these APIs. If you happen to work with Xfinity, or they say, look, I'd like to bring you into my curated set of products. If you have to re-architect your product to do that, well, you actually lost that opportunity. So again, we've viewed the world as you don't know who you're going to even partner with. Partnerships, that BD role, even at companies who build products, is so different now. And I think future-proofing means building in, think about APIs that are very flexible, that can connect to other clouds, other applications. And down at the home, you have to be able to adapt to changing standards like Matter.
Okay, that's great. And it's certainly an initiative that we're watching closely, and that we've seen many efforts over the years really trying to bring all of the different players together and create that unified experience. I love the mention of future proofing as well. That's something we've been talking a lot about around here, especially with the broadband providers and the MDU market, as they look to ensure that connectivity is there in the multifamily, multi-dwelling units to enable all the different devices and platforms to come into the building. And I think that's going to bring a lot of scale here in the coming months. This brings us a little bit towards looking at what is going to happen in the short term and the long term. We've got supply chain issues. We've got potential labor workforce issues. There's a lot that's going on right now. And so what's your view of, let's say, the next 12 months, and then maybe can you go 5 years out and predict something great for us, Dave?
Maybe, I guess 12 months. One of the things that I'm excited by that I see it, because I've believed in this for a long time. And, right now I'm spending a couple months with my parents here, is that they don't really want to use their iPhone to control things. They don't have an Alexa here, but eventually having almost plug-in audio, the aging population is a big deal. And I actually loved something that Amazon said about this ambient sensing, is the less technology involved in these amazing technical capabilities, the better. So as AI improves, which makes voice much easier, much more natural, for the ability actually to go somewhere and use your voice to control versus pulling out the phone and having to debug why the app didn't start. I think actually voice is going to continue to be a major, it's going to control the smart home and possibly smart building quite a bit more. And AI actually is a big part of that, because it's a little bit clunky today, but it's over the last couple of years, it's improved a lot. Now in 5 years, a lot of this is related to AI. I think what'll happen is, what we're finding is, actually this is through Ayla and other companies I work with, that AI is this rocket ship of technology advancement right now. And the amount of autonomy that is, we're seeing it, it's easy pass and now cars, you automate the simplest stuff first. But I think it follows that trend. The smart home is smartest when we don't have to do that much. And yet it just sort of starts to understand and learn. And the Nest had this too. It's all very theoretical. It does require a lot of continued advancements in AI, in that this is all happening in the background. So I think there will be much more smart home products when we are able to do more of it in the background, but there will be so much data we're using to do that as well. In fact, so it may, in fact, use more cloud resources. But that pays off 10 times over, because, to really work well, this is when, we as consumers will then actually just start to expect it. Right now, it's a little clunky for us all.
Yeah, really, really interesting points. And so love that you're bringing up voice as the user interface, the role of independent living in the aging population, many of whom do embrace a lot of things that technology can do. I think there's some misperceptions there on those older adults. AI and predictive and proactive types of actions that can take place. I was recently talking to a device maker who is, has a device that will turn off a stove before the fire happens. And you can imagine all the implications there. If you look at fire in homes and what's the largest cause, it is cooking. So solutions for everything. Also, the idea of engagement is really great. And I think at our Smart Energy Summit a couple years back, we had some comments on, do we actually really want the customer engaged? And is that a metric of success? Or is it that things just already just happen for them? They don't actually have to be engaged, because it goes on in the background. So it brings up a good question of, what do we need the consumer? How involved do we need them to be, or want them to be an active participant in buying these types of products and services? So lots of good questions. Dave, I want to give you the opportunity to share any final thoughts with our audience, and I really appreciate you joining us today for this interesting conversation.
Only that, I guess this is now over 10 years, from Ayla start today. And it's been really fun working with you guys. I think we all learn together in this industry. I actually love the fact that these answers don't exist yet. It's not firm. And so these conferences and working with customers, and, we make some mistakes along the way, and then we make some improvements. It actually is part of what makes this whole space so exciting and fun and challenging. So it's just been fun working with you guys through the years.
Well, we certainly appreciate your support. There's so much to talk about, and we at Parks Associates are definitely passionate about the research work that we do and the work that we do to help companies grow in these industries, providing the consumer ultimately with the best experience possible. So Dave, thank you again for joining us, and we will be right back. So stay tuned for our next session.
Okay, great. We are ready to launch into our full panel discussion now. I'm so pleased to be inviting a whole array of industry experts from perspectives really across the industry to talk about this key topic of platforms and providing a fantastic user experience in the smart home. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about your organization. And we're going to go ahead and start with Aaron from Brilliant. Hi, Aaron.
Hello.
How are you today? Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. So Brilliant is the user experience layer for smart home technology. We make an in-wall smart home control, goes right into the wall of your house, unifies all of the different smart home devices that you might have, and provides touch and voice control for them. We go to market both in retrofit and in residential new construction, both single family and multifamily.
Fantastic. And Aaron, you're the CEO at Brilliant. Don't know that we mentioned that, so I just want to make sure your role here is clear, and thanks so much for being with us. Okay, next we have Scott Harkins, who's the Vice President of Sales and Channel Marketing with Resideo. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for having me today. Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Harkins. I lead sales and marketing organization for Resideo. Resideo is now 3 years old, 3 years and 2 weeks since we became a public company after spinning out of Honeywell. Our products go to market under the brands of Resideo, Honeywell Home, and a few others in the marketplace. And we're really focused on 5 primary areas. what I call networks within the home. The air network, we do zoning controls and comfort controls and IAQ within the home. The water network, we are a significant player in those parts of the world where water is a primary means for heating or cooling the home, as well as leaks and shutoff valves and other things that will protect against water damage. We play in the energy space via both a demand response software aggregator, but also we use energy and the way energy interacts with products and equipment in the home to determine what might be going on with those products and do predictive maintenance and predictive failure. We also play in the security space where we're a large manufacturer of security equipment connected back to our AlarmNet and TotalConnect software infrastructures. And finally, we offer services out to the world, including everything from cellular communications that our systems might be connected to. We transmit alarms, we do energy management, filter replenishment, and several other services that pros offer to their consumers. And finally, we play in really 4 channels, what I call the trade channel, which is HVAC professional contractors, the security channel with security dealers. We make products that go into other people's products in our OEM channel. So if you have a gas-powered water heater, it probably has our controller on it. And we play in the retail market where we do offer some products for sale in those channels. Our products end up going into about 150 million homes, and over 8 million of those homes are currently connected. So again, very happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Scott. And thanks for giving us the real full picture of all the places that Resideo is across this market. That's fantastic. Next, we have Steve Herbert. Steve is the Director of Global Business Development with Samsung. Hi, Steve.
Hi, thank you, Jennifer, and thanks for Parks and Associates for the opportunity to be with you today. A little bit about Samsung SmartThings. SmartThings has come a long way since its humble startup origins. The SmartThings app and cloud now power all Samsung connected products, including our #1 selling TVs and appliances, and offer tens of millions of SmartThings users a unified one app experience to operate their homes that integrates with over 5,000 devices from over 200 brands. If you have any of those 5,000 devices, you can download our free app on iOS or Android and begin automating those devices right away. You might even already have our app on your Samsung mobile device. This year, we turned the smart home world on its head a bit with new capabilities to manage energy and air quality in the home. And we've been leaders in the formation of the Matter standard, which will make it even easier for devices to work together to make our lives a little bit better. So thanks again for this opportunity. I'm excited to be with you today.
Thanks, Steve. Glad to have you with us as well. Next, we have Raman Sidhu, who's the VP of Product, Xfinity Home and Connectivity for Comcast. Hi, Raman. How are you?
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to all the participants here today. And just a quick overview. So for those who don't know, Xfinity Home, well, within Comcast, Xfinity is our consumer services. So we have Xfinity Broadband, we have our video service, our mobile, as well as home. So home is about security. It's about protection. It's about keeping the people in places you care about safe. And to do that, we serve with our professional monitored home security. We also have self-monitored security solutions with our video camera platform. And integrated into that, I know we're going to be talking about it a little bit later today, but we have a whole host of partners that are included and ingested into those experiences. Whether you're a pro-monitored security customer who's getting everything from our security panels, security sensors with our professional monitoring, or our self-monitored customers who are having our camera products to keep an eye on their home. So again, really excited, really thankful to be here and looking forward to speaking to you all today.
Great, thank you. And finally, we also have Wilco from Qorvo. Wilco, welcome. Please tell us a little bit about Qorvo and about your role there.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Very looking forward to the discussion. Qorvo is probably not a household name for a lot of you, but we have a very broad RF portfolio, all the way from LTE and 5G in smartphones and general mobile connections, all the way to very high power radar amplifiers with very high power and very high bandwidth that go all the way in the things like NORAD radar and fighter jets. For the smart home, which is probably your main interest, we have a lot of Wi-Fi content in a lot of products. as well as we do BLE, Zigbee, Thread, Matter type of solutions. And recently we have added a UWB portfolio. We expect is going to be very big in the smart home as well. So I think the previous speakers have talked a little bit about voice and different opinion on whether it's going to be the main interface or not. I think we believe voice is very important, but there is opportunities, I think, elsewhere as well. And UWB is a great example of something that can add location and angle to a user interface to add more opportunities for control in your home. So I work mainly in the smart home in marketing, and Matter is one of my main topics here. So looking forward to talking about that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, with that, appreciate all of you being here, and let's go ahead and jump right in. So, you know, you heard me earlier probably point to the fact that most of the smart home devices in consumers' homes are acquired, you know, oftentimes one-off at retail or online, but certainly security platforms, systems with hubs are also a very important first step into the home. And there is certainly growing interest in smart home platforms. So considering kind of the two methods of the home, what is the value of the platform to end users? And, you know, maybe how is that platform play evolving as the smart home market evolves? And I'd love to start with Ramon there.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. And I think, you know, David earlier said it pretty spot on, is that, you know, there are point solutions, and consumers are buying point solutions today. They are buying point solutions because they don't wake up in the morning and say, now all of a sudden I want to have a smart home. There's a pain point, there's an experience that causes them to go out and add something, causes them to either add a security system, causes them to add a doorbell or a camera or a smart lock or a thermostat or garage door opener. The list goes on. There are use cases like, I want my things delivered. I want to know when my kids come home. I want to allow the dog walker into the home. So again, what I'm getting at is a little bit, the point solutions are how consumers are buying, because they want to build their home over time. Their smart home is going to be built what I call brick by brick. But it's important to note that eventually they're going to have so many of these bricks that they need to be connected in a way. They need to operate together, because people don't want to jump around between 5 different apps on their phone to do different things. And I know Parks research shows that interoperability in a one app solution is something that is very important to consumers. So I think the interoperability to ensure that when consumers are buying upfront, that they know that it can be integrated into some element of a platform, whether that be your security service or your voice platform, that there is interoperability is critical. You know, at Xfinity and with Comcast, what we're doing at Xfinity Home is really trying to find those interoperability points that kind of add more than just the device by itself. So, you know, it's more than just controlling a lock or controlling a light within the app. It's saying, from my video screen, when I'm looking at my camera, can I control the smart lock? Can I control the light bulb directly from that screen? So if someone's coming home, can I lock the door, unlock the door? Can I turn on the front porch light as that person is approaching or is ringing the doorbell, for example? So I think those are the magical points where things are just going to work seamlessly and integrate really well. But we're going to pick and choose those things. Though we're going to be a little bit more selective about what we're doing, because we know that interoperability and that connection point is hard. So to do that, we really want to make just a few things more special for our customers.
Yeah, I'd love to follow up on that. So obviously, if someone's coming to Comcast, right, for an Xfinity Home solution, they're maybe already in that platform mindset, right? Like they're not going to retail to buy something off the shelf. Can you talk a little bit more about what you're finding from your own customers about, you know, why they're coming to you as a provider of smart home? You know, if there's anything unique about that customer, really what they're looking for out of you.
Yeah, I mean, at its core, like I said at the beginning, we serve, you know, the protection market for professional monitored home security, self-monitoring. Those are things where customers are kind of at the totem pole of value. I think that's where security and peace of mind that comes along with security is what comes first. And then consumers are then adding on these experiences like lights, locks, thermostats, et cetera, that build onto that. So consumers are coming to us and finding, starting with the use case of the security and then building from that after the fact, rather than the other way around where some are starting with, a smart lock and then trying to find the platform that works with their smart lock, for example.
Mm-hmm. So, Steve, same question for you from Samsung's perspective. How is the platform play in the smart home evolving? Obviously, Samsung's really been, a key player in this, from smart things, hubs, and sort of transitioning into more of a software strategy. Love to hear your thoughts on the platform approach right now.
Well, I work with builders and developers each day, and I think the standard in single-family home building for the last couple of years has just been to put some standalone devices in the home, maybe connect it with a voice assistant. And what we've been doing is we've been looking to develop much richer experiences for the users and to attract builders to our platform that way. So, I think the way to think of us is the conductor of an orchestra, right? And it's not just about the ease with which you can control a device, but it's about having the home operate effortlessly and autonomously on its own. And we think that's the true value of the platform. Yes, it's a one-app experience. That's absolutely better than a 6-app experience. But it's also about the automation. And the way that we're taking this is not just having the best automation and control platform, but then adding services on top of that add value in specific areas like energy management, and make that particularly easy for the end user. We've heard about these two sides of things. Do we add more capabilities? Do we make it easier? And the answer with us at SmartThings is we're trying to do both. We're trying to enable the power user through a very complex rules engine, and we're trying to help your average everyday mass market consumer just do things quickly and easily.
So I love the Samsung perspective, because you're one of the few brands that not only plays in smart home, of course, but has maybe an even bigger footprint when you think of consumer mindshare in entertainment and appliances, smart or not smart, right? And so you can kind of see outside of the smart home core, right? And how things can plug together. And the reality is that these ecosystems have developed very much in silos. Entertainment is still very, very separate from how smart homes kind of been developed and who's talking to each other. So can you give us a little insight into how Samsung thinks about connecting these different pieces of really what's in consumers' homes? I don't think consumers necessarily think about these different pieces of their homes, right? It's just their home and there's stuff in it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it doesn't hurt to have to be the top TV and appliance seller in the US, right? But our products are designed first and foremost to be very innovative products. If you look at our Family Hub refrigerator, this is a product that does just about everything but cook the meal for you. And there's definitely a lot of value we can add by enabling that to interact with other products. For instance, if someone were to ring your Ring doorbell, that would appear on your TV or your Family Hub refrigerator, allowing you to answer the doorbell, talk to them through your TV or your refrigerator. And so, what we're doing is we're enabling even richer experiences because of the products that we make. And we have that level of control, which is a really nice thing for us. And it allows us to move the ball forward with regard to smart home technology, with very innovative products that can kind of break the standard and create a new one. It gives us an advantage over some of our other appliance manufacturers. Their app would be the app that controls their appliances. Our app is an app that controls your entire home. And that gives us an advantage. So that's in a nutshell the way that we look at the market.
Yep. Well, Wilco, let me bring you into the discussion here. When you think about what your technology and approach can do, are there certain pain points that you're trying to solve for the consumer and their user experience? What are you really focused on addressing in the smart home?
We try to address what I like to say very much as just works and keeps working. So bring a product in your home and it works wherever you put it, right? Whether it's a noisy environment or whether it's further away. So performance for us is very important. Battery lifetime is great, right? So you don't have to go replace the batteries all the time. Those are very important basic facts that we don't talk about very much, but are very important for us to give to our customers to build into their product. But it's also, just works in that you can buy any product and it work in your ecosystem, right? And this is very much where I think the platform play is very important, and where it's important that interoperability between platforms is solved somewhere at the lower layer, that you don't have to buy brand X when you already have one other brand X in the thing, or it won't work. One of the main problems today of I think it came up in the first presentation, people not always being sure that they can buy something and it will work. I mean, that's something that we really want to solve. And the second part, keeps working. We really don't want to build something that is defunct, right? A couple of years from now. I mean, I think the smart home has been successful, but probably not as successful as we all hoped it would be or expected it would be. And partly it's been because some of the early startups folded, right? And people were left with a lot of products that didn't work anymore. And so for us, it's very important that we build product that works with what is there, opportunity, and give our product companies and customers the opportunity that it keeps working. So 5 years from now, it will probably looks very different, but our product should be upgradable in the field to do whatever is then the basic fact.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and trying to communicate through to consumers when something is upgradable, right? Or that give them confidence that that device can be in their home for a long time. The last time before I bought a smart lock and bought a traditional lock, the point was that it was going to be in my home for a decade, right? And I wasn't going to try and change it out all the time. With a smart lock, do I want to have to be buying a new lock every few years? Certainly, we see that as an issue. Well, actually, let me follow up on something that you mentioned in your opening comments about ultra-wideband technology, and the different types of radio communications that you're looking to support. Is there some sort of specific use case or reason that you're looking, to UWB as far as the opportunities that can provide to end users or product manufacturers?
Yeah, so I think our goal at Qorvo is to have an experience where you don't necessarily, as a product company, as an end customer, have to choose. And BLE fits in that picture, as well as Matter, right, and even Zigbee, because it has such a large installed base. We like all those to play together, and UWB is a new way of interacting with a phone, or do location, or have a user interface that is not necessarily what you have today. So we talked about voice. It's a great user interface for a lot of things, but not great for everything. And UWB, we believe has the opportunity to be something similar, but at a different angle. I think the door lock example is a great example. UWB brings the opportunity to be much more secure, much more fine-grained control of your door lock, with a phone you already have in your pocket. Where most door locks today are BLE based, and you have to be a little careful if you're too close with your phone, or you leave it in the wrong place, maybe it unlocks by geofencing not quite at the right thing. UWB doesn't have that negative, so it gives you a way to detect something close and do something. And we see that first tier one product companies are now integrating UWB in their smart home products as well. So not just door locks, but smart speakers and other products. And they're adding use cases that may feel a little strange now, but we believe have great opportunity. Point your phone at a smart speaker and do something with it, right? Or point your phone at a TV and immediately the voice control comes up, so you don't have to reach for your remote control. without having to pull up the app. Right? There's a lot of opportunities that tight control of location and angle, what you're pointing at, point and shoot, will give there. And the enrichment of the user interface in the smart home is something I think that we should all really care about, because we need to make the smart home smart, right, and not dumb. And voice should not be the only control point. We should really keep adding these type of ways that more people are more going forward.
Fantastic. Thanks for expanding on that, on your thinking there. Aaron, I want to make sure I bring you into the conversation as well here. And just to the audience, I'm about to reference the first polling question. So if you haven't had a chance to put your opinions into the polling tab, please do so. But Aaron, talk a little bit about Brilliant. Why do your customers, come to you? What are they looking for primarily, right, in going through a solution like Brilliant?
Yeah, I think we all know that in the future, all homes are going to be smart, in the same way that today all cars are smart. They have computers built into them. You only buy a smartphone. You're only going to buy a smart house in the future as well. But for that to happen, there are three things that really need to change, and three qualities of the user experience that have to be there, because the user experience is really the missing piece in making that possible. So first, you have to unify every device that people have in the house or want to have in the house. That means a single user experience that unifies together everything, whether it's a doorbell, whether it's music, whether it's locks, whether it's climate, whatever category it is. And that also includes the ability for people to bring their own device. I think that's a very key portion of this, because you don't always know a priori what everybody is going to want in their home. Second, it has to be accessible to everyone. And this is really a key, because it means, for example, that a mobile app is not the user experience of smart technology in the home of the future. It has to be something that you can just walk into the home and use it regardless of who you are. You might be a techno enthusiast, or you might be an average homeowner, or even a Luddite. You might be a child that doesn't have a smartphone yet. You might be a house guest. You have to be able to walk into it and use it. Imagine if you needed a bunch of mobile apps on your phone in order to use a car. You had one for the infotainment system, and you had one for the backup camera, and you had one for the engine management, and so on and so on. Nobody would want that car. And that's where we are right now with the home. And then finally, it has to be something that practically can go into every home, which means it has to be at a price point where it doesn't cost tens of thousands of dollars to make your home truly smart. It has to be very easy to configure and to install. It has to be very easy to continue to own and to manage. And so I think, to answer your question directly, why people come to us, come to Brilliant for this, it's because we make a technology that is universally accessible, unifies everything together, and does so at a price point and a cost and complexity of ownership that makes it suitable for every home.
So we asked a similar kind of question to the audience about what consumer experience is most likely to drive the wider adoption of systems and platforms over endpoint solutions. The number one answer looks like, oh, there's a tie. So frustration with interoperability issues, 35% picked frustration. Of course, it wasn't multi-select. They had to pick one. So frustration with interoperability issues and quest for convenience of ease of use, number 1 and 2. After that, the attraction of added value-added features of systems, right, that might be able to be offered. And fewer people selected just the general increase of number of devices owned, or the affordability of systems and associated services. So certainly interoperability and quest for convenience. Aaron, any response to that finding in the poll?
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't think it's surprising, and I think that people see the most immediate pain points first, right? Right now, you're having a problem just connecting things, so the connectivity layer really stands out. But the user experience layer is ultimately the thing that provides the value and that opens the door for every home to be smart, where it's not something that you need to be a technology enthusiast to appreciate and to use. The dirty secret of smart home is that with most smart home products, there's one person in the house who loves it and everybody else who sort of tolerates it. That has to change. It has to come to a point where everybody in the home is getting the full benefit of the smart technology across the board, because there are real benefits. And I think that people recognize that. They just get frustrated in trying to figure out how to make them all work together. So I think that's the big problem for our industry to solve right now. And that's certainly what Brilliant is focused on solving.
Great. I love the third response here too, about the ability to add additional features or really even services, right? I'd love to turn to Scott here with Resideo to focus a little bit more on the opportunity for professional services here, and especially building on or correlated to the sort of systems or platform play. Obviously, Resideo has tight relationships with the HVAC and the security dealer channel. What's the opportunity for professional services right now?
Yeah. So let me just reference Aaron's comment for a minute. If the belief is that all homes will be smart one day and that's just what we'll be buying, I think the counter to that is that means DIY is not likely the thing that gets us there, for a lot of different reasons. So often the DIY solution or the point solution that's purchased by a homeowner today is a novelty item. It's cool. It's on a wall. It has an app. They can control it that way. And 2 years later, they have 5 apps controlling 5 different things that don't work together. A common theme of every presentation today has been interoperability. I firmly believe that the pro is the organization, the professional HVAC contractor, the plumber, the security dealer is the distributor or the person that can bring it together for the consumer. Aaron also referenced smart car. I have a Jeep at home. I love my Jeep. It is 2 years old. It has cameras front and back. Everything that can possibly be monitored in that car is monitored. Everyone in my family that drives it knows how to drive it, knows how to use it. Very simple to use. And it is much more advanced in terms of a vehicle than most of the homes that my friends own. The home being the largest single investment most people will ever make is still the last frontier for connectivity and bringing smartness to it. I think the best way to do that is the pro. I think the vehicle, my Jeep is that way because Jeep got to pick the products, got to test those products, got to bring them into an integrated system and make sure they work. And any professional contractor or security dealer in the market has to be able to do the same. They can't figure it out on a job site. They have to know before they sit at the kitchen table with the homeowner that it's going to work when it's installed. So they've tested it. They know it will work. They know it won't create service calls. And they know they'll likely create a happy consumer and a happy customer. They also learn that they can unlock the unknown values that maybe a DIY product can't. Those unknown values or unlocked values are things like we all know and probably experience for ourselves. Home security monitoring 24/7, 365 is probably in the smart home the most obvious recurring revenue piece, but there are so many others. There are automated filter replenishment. Your HVAC system knows when your air filter is dirty and should be able to just get you one. So you don't have to worry about buying a $6 air filter down at Home Depot. It just shows up. All of these wireless devices that go throughout your home have batteries in them. Those batteries will all fail. Auto replenishment is an easy opportunity to create an ongoing relationship with your consumer if you're a pro. Energy services, not only helping homeowners create a more sustainable living environment where they save money and maybe drive a greener lifestyle, but also predicting failure on their HVAC system by monitoring their energy circuits, the power circuits. We can do that today. And these are all services that I don't believe a DIY solution will be able to bring, and that the pro is very uniquely positioned. again, I think the professional HVAC player, the professional security dealer, as they go into the home, they can tell the story like no DIY player can. They can bring a unified solution that they know works, and then they can create these extra value, these extra services on top, just like your the feedback to your poll says. So we really do believe the pro is in the right captain seat to win this space.
You know, we do see a lot of interest in our consumer survey work around a lot of the services that you just mentioned, replenishment, but even more so for proactive maintenance, detection, and if you've ever had to put the investment down to replace your HVAC system, right? I mean, that is an investment. And so there's the sort of ROI, I think, consideration for consumers of, you know, okay, I understand that proactive maintenance and monitoring makes sense. But it's certainly really low adoption of those types of services. I think there's probably an awareness issue, and, you know, you don't replace your HVAC every day. Can you speak at all to how aware the HVAC dealers are of their ability to offer these types of services? You know, is there still a lot of education that's happening in that channel? And then how do you get the end user aware that these types of technologies and great, you know, services are available?
Sure. So the challenge is there are 80,000 HVAC contractors across the U.S. 80,000. If you drove to the store this morning or tomorrow or this weekend, you will pass dozens of HVAC vans. Some of them are very large, very sophisticated companies that are looking to transform their businesses, and some of them aren't. So getting 80,000 contractors on board is a lot of work. The technology that does this is new. The technology that Resideo sells is something we call Pro IQ, which is a result of an acquisition we did a couple of years ago with a company called Lifeware. But the services are there. The sophisticated companies are looking to transform what a service agreement might be. Today, a service agreement is usually a $300 annual fee where you roll a truck twice a year, change filters, check the system, maybe clean the HVAC system out, you know, pull the leaves out of the fan, those kind of things. And all of a sudden, 2 truck rolls, $300 is gone. I think a significantly improved service agreement would be, I will monitor your HVAC system 24/7, 365, and I'll roll a truck before something fails, not wait for catastrophic failure when the next polar vortex swings through or when the 2-week heat wave hits. So we have to train the HVAC world. We have to engage them with our security partners as well. We think there's incredible partnerships there that can bear real fruit. And we have to teach and help them sell to the consumer to make the consumer aware. The power of the channel, 80,000 contractors out in the home every single day, is an absolutely massive number of consumer interactions that we think we can bring the consumer, make the consumer aware, and bring them along for the journey.
Fantastic. Thanks for expanding on that. Ramon, you know, I'd love to bring you into this conversation as well around professional services and sort of the shift in consumer desires. We see a ton of interest right now in DIY, right? Especially in the security space. People either self-monitoring or self-installing. Xfinity Home now does offer sort of a hybrid or a variety of ways to use the Xfinity Home service. And then also, of course, Comcast has a service provider arm, pay TV, right? You're kind of everywhere, mobile now. How do you think about the opportunity for value-added services, additional professional revenues? Is it install? Is it premium support? Is it, you know, where are you looking to play and kind of add value on top of the system itself?
Sure. Yeah. And to build on what Scott said earlier, I think that the value of the technician on the professional install side is very important for a segment of the population. You know, as we look at the market and you know, from Parks and others, when we look at kind of our consumer feedback, is that choice is really important. DIY growth over not just the last 18 months during the pandemic, but even before that, consumers are more willing to tinker, more willing to spend time, more willing to install things exactly how they want to be installed, rather than waiting for a technician or scheduling someone or a professional installer to come over. So I think choice is going to be really critical in this space, and to provide you know, segment-driven opportunities for some are going to need more of our traditional customers who are going to want to the professional install, and then some that are going to want to do it themselves. So I think that's going to be really critical. Two, when we think about kind of service, Xfinity is a service-driven company. It's service model for our video, mobile, internet, home, landline, etc. Like that is our business model. So for us, it's about the monitoring service is at the core, for professional monitoring or self-monitoring video recording and AI and ML driven video experiences. That's what really we want to be in the game for. The installation portion of that is the consumer choice, right? And I think that's where our direction of travel is going to be, is to have both professional and self-installable solutions for our customers going forward. In addition, we have partnerships, with other companies to help us in case customers want installs and services for things that we do not do. So, we have a partnership with Helotech, where they do installation services for things that our technicians don't do, like hanging TVs or fishing wire behind walls. There's certain elements where, we're not going to do it all for our customers, and let the folks who are more specialized to do those come into the home and do that at a much better rate and a much better timeline for our customers.
Fantastic. Well, we are actually getting quite a few questions in from the audience, so I'm going to take a few now, and then we'll get back into our conversation. So we did have a question specifically come in for you, Steve, with Samsung. Wondering about if you could talk a little bit about the future of Bixby and Tizen and even Samsung Wear OS watches within kind of home automation, right? So again, Samsung has such a footprint in the home and different operating systems that are created for uniquely for some of these different use cases. How do they fit into that home automation picture?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're an innovation company, and sometimes we have to innovate, we have to create our own capabilities to make sure that we are fulfilling that role. And as the standards become available, or as other options dominate the landscape, we make it a point to integrate with those. So whether you're using Bixby or you're using, let's say, Alexa or Google Home, for us, it's about the experience of the user and making sure that they're able to do the things that they're looking to do. So while we might create a technology to solve a problem and to create a great experience, we also sort of recognize that our chief role is to please our customers and to create great experiences for them. And so we'll continue to transition and innovate as needed to do that.
Okay, great. Thanks for taking that question. The next one's really open to anybody, but Wilco, actually, I'm going to direct it to you first. I'm thinking you might have a hot take on this. So, but anybody can jump in. Do you have any opinions on Cat-M technology and use cases for how it might be deployed, particularly in the smart home?
Yeah, sure. So Cat-M is a technology, right? Just like Wi-Fi or Zigbee or Matter, which currently primarily is driven that it can be roaming, right? So just like a mobile phone, Cat-M is a node that is working on cellular infrastructure. May work across the world if you have the right provider, and can ask a premium for the service it can offer because it can roam across the world. For smart home, we certainly believe there could be some use cases. We believe they're pretty niche because smart home, by definition, is going to have some type of internet access already, and there's not much of a roaming content there, right? So I think Cat-M can really, or NB-IoT, big role to play in things that may go around the smart home, pet trackers, something that Amazon is also trying to address with Sidewalk, but maybe not so much inside the home itself, at least not for the majority of the features you're trying to use, or the maturity of the type of services you're going to use in your home.
What do you think about the idea? So I think the most compelling use case that I've heard for cellular generally in the smart home, right, given that it's much higher cost compared to other connectivity standards, is around healthcare and connected health. You have a managed service with quality assurance. There is not downtime. There's not necessarily plug and play and issues with pairing with people's home networks, right? And so when you have a use case where it's life or death situation, and where you really want to take the user and the user's ability to maybe interfere in some negative way with setup or functioning of a connected device in the home, right? Health would be a really nice use case for cellular. Does anybody have a opinion on that? Or
I mean, I'll jump in, and
Sure.
not healthcare related, but I mean, on the security side, we use cellular for backup for our services today. We are a broadband company, and so broadband is where most of our traffic is deployed for our security services as well as our video services. But we have cellular backup. There are times when broadband is going to go down. Those are the unexpected events that happen, power outages, etc., where your broadband is down. And so cellular provides that backup, that consistent connectivity to ensure the safety and security of our customers. So absolutely believe that cellular does have a place in IoT, in the smart home. But I think to your point, Wilco, it is going to be more niche. It is going to be more very use case driven. I think healthcare and the if there's any home health or diagnostics and things that are being used, I think that's spot on. I think those are other similar life and death use cases that can leverage cellular in an effective way.
Great, thanks for that.
Jennifer, just one more comment. We do, I haven't talked about it here today, but we do have a small remote patient monitoring solution in market. And to your point, it's 100% cellular. So all of that connectivity is cellular because of, typically the state of the patient's not great and there can't be a lot of time for setting up. Certainly all security systems, nearly 100% of them have some cellular radio included with them. But we also see there are still an awful lot of locations that don't have broadband, and low-income housing, as an example, doesn't have broadband. And there's opportunities with utilities and energy providers to help optimize the energy usage there if you could only get connectivity. NB-IoT is one way to do that, we think, in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing those thoughts as well. So I'd love to turn to the second polling question, which is about Matter. Obviously, a big industry initiative, which has a lot of support from some of the companies here represented as well. So we asked the audience here, what's their company's approach to Matter right now? Taking a wait and see approach, already participating and supporting the standard and involved, right? With there's lots of working groups. It's an open standard, right, happening right now, and people are building out their products actively. And then no plans to incorporate the Matter standard. So between those three options, 71% have said today that they are waiting to see how product rollouts go in 2022, and then a completely even split between already involved and no plans to be involved with Matter. So I'd love to turn to Steve and then Wilco to understand your thoughts on Matter and how you think it will, how your organizations, right, are thinking about Matter and how you think it might impact the market. So Steve, I'll start with you.
Yeah, Samsung and SmartThings have been integral to the Matter effort. We've been a leader in helping develop the standard. We think it's really important. It's definitely changes the nature of the game when it comes to the platforms and the value that we provide. When you take away that part of what we offer, if flexibility was a key to SmartThings' value proposition in the market, supporting multiple radios inside of it to create the ultimate in flexibility. Well, when Matter comes around, as it will, that advantage will no longer be quite as relevant for us. And so as a platform provider, we're very focused on what we can do to add value on top of that basic interoperability layer. And so we're introducing things like, the SmartThings services, SmartThings Energy, SmartThings Air, SmartThings Fund. All of these are capabilities that reside on top of that platform and on top of the interoperability layer, the control platform, the automation platform, and provide additional services and value. And so we, like every other platform, that will have to adapt to the Matter standard and find new ways to add value. Overall, I think it's going to be better for everybody because, you know, vendors making products will not have to spend quite as much money to support quite as many standards. And it's going to drive companies like Samsung to do even more in other areas where we no longer will be concerned with as much with the interoperability standard, but in developing new services, new capabilities, better products. So I think overall it's a win for everybody. But I understand why people are kind of taking a wait and see approach. These discussions have happened before in our industry, but I think this one is finally for good.
Great. So with that problem solved, freeing up resources and attention to innovate in new ways. That's great. We'll go back to you from Qorvo's perspective.
Yeah, and you know, similarly, we're very excited, right? Because we have to get the smart home discussion away from, you know, should I buy Z-Wave or should I buy Zigbee or things like that, right? I mean, that interoperability, ease of install, that's a key factor that needs to be solved. But similar to what Steve was saying, we see it as a much bigger opportunity to bring a layer between the platforms and the services they provide and the devices, right? So a services company is not necessarily a great device company. Certainly, there are certainly companies that can do both, but you know, for biggest innovation, you know, we've always seen that small companies can sometimes do a much bigger leap. Ecobee came by in one of the first sentences as having really a groundbreaking new thermostat, right? That was not a big company. Nest is another example of really bringing kind of learning to the home, again, as a small company. And we really look forward to Matter giving the opportunity of splitting up this platform versus distinction that currently is very tied together, right? So that a service company can roll out a service that ties into one of the bigger platforms, for instance, that is reusing things that are in your home already that use Matter, whether it's Wi-Fi or Thread or Matter over Thread, right? That becomes somewhat you know, somewhat of a same thing, right? It's no longer so much about the technical radio protocol underneath. It really becomes about Matter, and hopefully, as I said, tying in, getting services companies kind of detached from having to build a complete device ecosystem to even play. And I think one of the ones that came up today a couple of times already is kind of this health monitoring, right, for elderly people. They may already have an Xfinity home system, and you know, they may get from their a monitoring system X, you know, and it would be great if that would just plug in, right, without having to do all kinds of integration level effort in an Xfinity home or something, you know, almost like an app store for the smart home that could reuse that infrastructure that is there already. And as a third leg here, you know, technology is keeping going, right? And you know, as a Qorvo, we're trying to make a lot of things available to our device makers, and one of them is that we're going to see a tremendous increase in compute power on the edge in the next 5 to 10 years, including on batteries. And the amount of processing power we're going to have, you know, 2-3 years from now, that will allow this kind of advanced processing on even battery-based nodes that can tie into services that could be made available by uniformly by a platform like Matter is truly exciting for us, and something which is much more interesting for us to win business than saying, you know, we are the only one that can do protocol X, so come to us, right? I mean, it's much more interesting for us to unlock an enormous amount of new services in the smart home by having, you know, the right type of performance, range, and processing power and sensing capability, necessarily then relying on this protocol thing. So for us, Matter, very excited, right people involved, and certainly we hope it can really bring the smart home to this next level where services become much more important beyond, having a device in your home.
Great, that's fantastic, and again, very future looking, and a lot of innovation that perhaps can come out of this and from new types of companies even. We do have a couple more questions from the audience that I want to make sure that we get to before we wrap up. Rahman, I'm going to take this one to you. It's about something that I showed earlier in the session, which was about the rising number of technical support issues that consumers experience with their smart home devices. And so we had a question, it was back up that way. That one. So there we go. Make sure I can read the question here from my own slides here. So, how, when you think about the rising issues with technical problems, and there may be an assumption that, if you give the consumer the opportunity to have it professionally installed or self-installed, that maybe you have more technical issues ultimately with the self-installed side, whether or not that plays out as true, I'm not sure. But how does that impact profitability for the device manufacturer or for a service provider like yourself? We know that the ISPs get called for all sorts of things that aren't their fault when it comes to the devices attached to their network, right? And people think, well, it's all the internet, right? And we're going to call Comcast for help. Can you talk about a little bit about, right, how Comcast deals with the support that needs to be there for the devices in the home and for the devices on your specific platform?
Yeah, no, you're very good question, Jennifer, and I'm glad it came up. I think that at its core, you'd hope that everything is easy to install and has no problems, but that's inevitable is going to happen. So what do we do? And I think first and foremost is that, for customers installing the devices, the DIY products, our cameras, our, door locks that are going to be part of our portfolios, et cetera, we want to make sure that the customer has the support they need to do that, whether that's in-app, really clear instructions, videos, the like. And when they do have trouble with the installation, that we provide digital ways for them to get support through Xfinity Assistant, our new AI and ML chat-based solution. Through our app, consumers can kind of chat to get help. We also see that if they need a lifeline, that I mentioned earlier that we have that partnership with HelloTech, thinking about ways that we can leverage those types of partnerships in the future to leverage that as a support from an installation standpoint. When it comes to post-install and usage support, that's where we've taken the approach. If you look at our set of partners in our portfolio today, it is curated. We can't have 10,000 different smart home devices in our portfolio across lights, locks, thermostats, garage door sprinkler, pool controller, robot vacuums, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We can't support all of those use cases because many of them are interesting, many of them people find of value, but they're not the things that are going to move the needle with engagement with an Xfinity Home solution. So we have a more curated set of devices, and that way we can control in a much better way the support infrastructure for those partnerships and those relationships. And then finally, I think the third point is that, look, we do our best to ensure the connectivity of those devices. We are the connectivity company. We want to get the thing online and working within our experiences. But then we also work to deflect some of those calls to the manufacturers. If the customer is having an issue with a Lutron light or a Leviton light or a Kwikset or a Yale lock, et cetera, we want to have that touch point where our agents can pass the call over to a support agent from those groups, because they're the ones that are going to be in the best position to solve the product issue that comes specifically with that door lock, that light, that other smart home product.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, we just have a few minutes left. So, Aaron, I want to give you the last word. Can you talk to us about what opportunities you're really focused on right now as the smart home and your business continues to evolve into the future?
Yeah, I think Scott made a point earlier about where consumers or homeowners, renters are ultimately going to be getting smart technology from. And just like in your car, sure, you can buy an aftermarket infotainment system and you can buy an aftermarket backup camera. You can install them yourself or you can have them professionally installed. But the majority of these products come through new vehicles that are being sold. And similarly, Brilliant is working with hundreds of builders, both in single family and in multifamily, to make sure that the homes are smart from the get-go. And this is something that builders appreciate the value of. Properties will sell faster and for more money, or same thing if they're renting. But at the same time, it's been a challenge for them to have a solution that actually fits those needs, makes the home and the apartment truly smart, and does so without requiring additional infrastructure in the home and at a price point that makes it suitable for even modestly priced homes. So that's a huge opportunity there, and we've seen the emphasis go into single family residential new construction, but then also increasingly in the multifamily space, where the challenges, in addition to all of the smart technology itself, center around managing that technology at scale. If you're managing thousands or tens of thousands of rental units, you need to have a platform that allows you to manage those efficiently during deployment, during turns. But it opens up possibilities, not just for the kinds of smart capabilities we all think of, but enormous opportunities for energy savings, for loss prevention, and this kind of dovetails into the security theme as well. There are a lot of different kinds of security. There's security against theft and so on, but also security against damage, whether that's from water leaks or excessive temperatures, mold damage, a lot of different things that smart technology can forestall. So a big opportunity we see there is bringing it into new construction and into tenancy situations. And then there are a lot of new emergent areas where people live that have some special needs on top of homes, things like assisted living facilities, going into hospitality. So there are going to be a lot of new segments that I think are extremely important going forward. And then obviously a lot of different partnerships, whether it's with insurance companies, whether it's that blurring of the line between security and smart home, where they're increasingly the same thing, and in healthy buildings and so on. So there's no end of new opportunities, but we do think that first you have to really create the user experience. I shouldn't say first, because we're doing this in parallel, and the industry is moving in parallel. But it all really revolves around that creation of a user experience that is good for everybody who's in contact with the technology, and that pertains across all of these different markets.
Well, Aaron, Steve, Raman, Wilco, Scott, thank you all very much for your time and your insights today. We very much appreciate it. We are moving into our networking discussion. So for the attendees here, if you'd like to keep the conversation going, join us in our Zoom chat room. Our team will be putting that link into the chat area for you to easily hop over there. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And we will be back with our next session. We'll focus on data privacy and security in the smart home. That is coming up at 2 o'clock. We really appreciate Johnson Controls for sponsoring this session. And yes, at 2 o'clock, we'll be back with a full session on privacy and security in the smart home. What's great is that Aaron was just ending on a point about the big opportunity to talk about to serve MDUs in a new way, and especially at the build point. Parks Associates did conduct research this year on property owners and managers in the MDU space and their current use of and desire for smart building, property tech, smart home devices. So let us know if you have any interest in seeing some of that research. You can reach out to Jason Paris, who's our VP of Business Development. And then also, if you're interested in sponsorship opportunities for connections, for Smart Energy Summit, for any of our events, as well as any support in your own thought leadership. We do custom white papers and webinars, and Ashton would be the person to reach out to at Parks Associates for more information about that. And please follow us on social media, where we keep the conversation going and share a lot of our data. And we love the interaction that we have with many of you there as well. So thank you very much. See you in the chat, and we will be back at 2 o'clock.